Houston Wrestling is a now defunct professional wrestling promotion that ran from the mid-1920s through 1987. Originally run by the Sigel family, it reached its highest point of popularity during its run under Paul Boesch. It was 1915 in Houston, Texas, as the Galveston hurricane hit the Texas coast with winds up to 135 miles per hour. Charlie Chaplin's film The Tramp was released. On August the 31st, Jimmy Lavender of the Chicago Cubs pitched a no-hitter against the New York Giants. The 1 millionth Ford car rolled off the assembly line at the River Rouge plant in Detroit, Michigan. Einstein's theory of general relativity was formulated, and Houston's wrestling legend began, with shows being held at irregular intervals until 1923. Inspired by this, promoter Julius Sigel started Houston City Auditorium. Following the creation of this historic building, wrestlers like Young Gotch, Toots Mondt, Alexander the Great, Ellis Becerra, Dan O'Connor, Wildcat Ewing, and Ed the Strangler Lewis began showing up in Houston on a regular basis to perform in weekly Friday night shows. In 1929, Sigel left to promote shows in New Orleans and Shreveport, Louisiana, leaving the promotion to his brother, Morris Sigel. Morris was not well versed in the wrestling business, but guided the promotion through strong business sense and surrounding himself with people capable of running wrestling shows without his help. During this time, a wrestler from Brooklyn, New York named Paul Boesch was on the wrestling scene, who would ultimately be one of Morris Sigel's main men. In 1947, Boesch was in a serious car accident that forced him to retire from performing. Sigel hired him as a backstage aide and radio announcer. In May 1942, Julius Sigel died of a heart attack at 47 years old. He was one of the first promoters to intertwine his company with local charities and known to stage benefit matches to aid needy children. As television became popular in Houston around 1949, Boesch became Houston Wrestling's first television commentator. After several years of jumping channels, Houston Wrestling ended up on local channel 39, at which point it became a national phenomenon for over 30 years. Morris Sigel died on December 26, 1966. In early 1967, Boesch bought the Golf Athletic Club from Sigel's widow, realizing that he was ultimately in the best position to carry on the Houston wrestling legacy. Paul Boesch noted that he had been training for this position for over 2 decades without even realizing it, and was ready to practice his own ideas and run the company himself. Under his control, Houston Wrestling expanded its legacy, becoming one of the most popular promotions in the nation, rivaling even Dallas's popular world-class championship wrestling promotion. Wrestlers such as Billy Red Lyons and Gary Hart acknowledged Houston Wrestling as one of the best in the nation, and also praised Boesch as an honest man and a great promoter who almost always drew sellouts for his cards. Boesch spent 21 years promoting in Houston, affiliating himself with Southwest Sports, World Class Championship Wrestling, Southwest Championship Wrestling, Mid-South Wrestling, the Universal Wrestling Federation, and the World Wrestling Federation, all in an attempt to bring the best wrestlers and best wrestling to the Houston area. In 1974, on the 4th of July, Houston Wrestling returned to the Sam Houston Coliseum, featuring one of many 2-ring battle royals, featuring the likes of Grizzly Smith, superstar Billy Graham, Jose Lothario, Steve Strong, and John Tolos, where the winner Al Madril claimed a $16,000 purse. Also on the card, Mad Dog Vachon faced Terry Funk for the Brass Knucks Championship in the main event. Some of the biggest feuds in Houston wrestling history include Johnny Valentine and Wahoo McDaniel, Fritz Monerick and Duke Kiyomuka, and the Fantastics and the Sheepherders. In the advent of national promotions in the 1980s, Houston Wrestling began to fall by the wayside, as various partner promotions such as Mid-South and the Universal Wrestling Federation began affiliating themselves with the National Wrestling Alliance. Paul Boesch opted instead to work with Vince McMahon and the World Wrestling Federation. On April 11, 1987, he shocked fans by opening the program, announcing Houston Wrestling and the WWF were working together, and on Friday, May the 15th, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat would be defending his newly won Intercontinental Championship in a return match against Randy Macho Man Savage at the Sam Houston Coliseum under the Houston Wrestling banner. Unlike other promotions, Houston Wrestling did not have its own world champion or any other titles. Instead, Paul Boesch used the booking office titles that he was co-promoting with at the time. He also used the AWA title in main events with Bockwinkel on a regular basis in the late 70s and early 1980s. After a 4-month partnership with Vince McMahon and the WWF, Paul Boesch retired from promoting. The WWF hosted his retirement show on Friday, August 28, 1987, in Houston, Boesch's territory, at the Sam Houston Coliseum. Dozens of guests were in attendance to honor the legendary businessman and wrestling pioneer. Among the dignitaries at the show were Lou Thez, Vern Gagne, Bruno Sammartino, Fabulous Moolah, Terry Funk, Andre the Giant, Vince McMahon, Boris Malenko, Mil Mascaras, Hulk Hogan, Jack Tunney, Pat Patterson, Billy Lyons, Gene Kiniski, Stu Hart, Jose Lothario, Ernie Ladd, and many others, with a sellout crowd of 12,000 fans witnessing Hulk Hogan successfully defend the WWF Championship against the one-man gang, effectively ending Houston Wrestling. During the show, then Vice Presidents George H.W. Bush honored Boesch via telegram. Paul Boesch died 2 years later. He was known to treat the wrestlers who worked for him very well, and his payoffs were among the best in the business. While most promoters around that time were paying top guys no more than 15% of the gate, Boesch's payouts were rumored to exceed 30%. Houston Wrestling maintained a very fluid roster due to its reliance on other promotions to provide talent for its shows. Notable wrestlers included Wahoo McDaniel, Fritz Von Erich, Hacksaw Duggan, Dick Murdoch, Johnny Valentine, Nick Bockwinkel, the Midnight Express, the Rock and Roll Express, Shawn Michaels, the Blade Runners, Superstar Billy Graham, Andre the Giant, Bob Backlund, and Bruno Sammartino. That was the untold story of Houston Wrestling.